Live, a very good day to you, and thank you so much for making the time to speak to us today.
Good morning, Desiree. Nice to speak to you.
The weather's a bit overcast in South Africa. I wonder how it is where you are. But that letter you wrote...
It's much the same, much the same.
There are usually similarities between the two countries. You wrote that letter to the British Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. What did your letter entail?
My letter set out the detailed case for why South Africa should have been lifted off the red list at least a month ago, when a number of countries were, and it was illogical. Countries like Turkey were taken off the red list on the 17th of September by the British government, and yet Turkey has a rising infection rate. It doesn't test as much. Kenya was also taken off the red list, and good luck to that, but it doesn't test as much as South Africa. And South Africa has world-class genome sequencing capabilities, which means it can check for new variants, because as we know, we've had a number of variants, and the dominant one has now come from India, the Delta variant, that is the dominant one in the UK and in South Africa. And actually, the infection rate in South Africa was 10 times the one in the UK, here in Britain. So there didn't seem to be any logical basis for the decision, and I'm pleased now that as a result of the representations made to Boris Johnson, he's now lifted South Africa off the red list, which means people, especially people who are double vaxxed, are able to travel to South Africa, and Britons especially form a massive proportion of the tourism and the visitors from Britain that come on safaris and into South Africa's wonderful holiday destinations, which of course many jobs are dependent upon.
As you said, the UK had initially removed 8 countries from the red list on 17 September, yet 3 of them, Sri Lanka, Maldives and Turkey, have a higher and rising rates of infection in comparison to South Africa. What do you think led to the UK's decision to keep South Africa on the red list?
I can only think that it was a failure, a kind of casual indifference on the part of the British Prime Minister and his officials, because if they'd taken the trouble to look at the evidence, they would not have kept South Africa on the red list a month ago. And I'm afraid, I think it also means that there's a neglect of the historic relationship between the two countries. I mean, obviously, South Africa was a century ago a British colony. And there are strong cultural links, sporting links, family links, economic links. And you would have thought, compared with some of the other countries which were lifted off the red list and South Africa was left plonked on it at tremendous cost, you would have thought that given the historic relationship and friendship between the two countries, Prime Minister Boris Johnson would have thought, let me have a closer look at this. This is a good friend of Britain's, and Britain has been historically a good friend of South Africa with all these close links. Let's just check this. But obviously that didn't happen. So it was inexplicable, and I called it preposterous in my letter to him, and I laid out the detailed case for South Africa going back in, as I'm sure President Ramaphosa made the same point. The South African High Commissioner Tembi Tambo made representations here in London. Eventually, collectively, we've been able to see common sense applied at last, but it should have been done a while ago, because, you know, every week that goes by, another big group of tourists look elsewhere, because people book ahead to book flights and book destinations. So I hope there will be a last-minute rush, because a lot of people in Britain and elsewhere are desperate to travel to South Africa and to enjoy its wonderful delights, by the way, including myself and my wife. So there was a personal interest in this as well, because we wanted to travel in August. We were unable to. We wanted to travel last August, of course, at the height of the COVID pandemic. We were not able to then, and now we will be able to.
Well, of course, there were parallel conversations taking place with the President of South Africa also talking to the Prime Minister. But do you think your letter played a role in getting South Africa out of this list?
Well, look, I can't tell, but I thought it was very important to lay out the evidence, and I had the assistance of experts, including from South Africa, in the tourism industry and with a scientific knowledge to be able to do that. I haven't seen that case put so clearly and forcibly before. Maybe it had a difference. I don't know where it figured in the scale of things, but in a way that's not important. What is important is collectively the case has been made. At last the British government has been forced to look at it, and my letter landed on the desk of the Prime Minister, and maybe he hadn't had a chance to really consider it before. And if so, well, I'm pleased that we've now had the decision we should have had over a month ago.
I know you say it was done for personal reasons, but for the gain of many. Let's thank you once again for your consistent support of South Africa and its democracy.
Pleasure, thank you.
Lord Peter Hain, the letter he wrote to the UK government, to the Prime Minister directly, resulting in South Africa being removed from that traffic light travel system, being removed from the red list. Now,